Ms. Currie, in your prepared statement, you note that a major role of the United Nations Economic and Social Council is the global effort to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Some of these 17 goals include zero hunger and clean water and sanitation. When I consider these worthy goals, I can't but help but think of the urgent crisis in Yemen. What's your assessment of the situation in Yemen, Ms. Currie?
Thank you for asking about the famine and the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, and for your excellent work with Senator Cardin introducing your resolution on the four famines and all the attention that you have brought to the issue of the four famines. These complex humanitarian disasters, all of which are man-made, have been almost invisible despite their huge proportions. It is quite amazing that millions of people are at risk of starvation, imminent risk of starvation, and the world has barely paid attention to it. The United States, through the generosity of the Congress, has supported a $1 billion contribution to the UN OCHA appeal of $5.6 billion, but we've been, I think, disappointed by the lack of participation by other partners and hope to see that stepped up. In Yemen, this is one of the most complex of the four because of the presence of different groups that are fighting and the involvement of external actors, including the United States and the Saudis. So there's a huge conflict element, obviously, here. If confirmed, this is going to be a top priority, working on not only Yemen, but the other three famine or near famine states, and working very closely with my colleague, if he is confirmed with me, to coordinate both the kinetic aspects of responding to these disasters as well as the humanitarian.
So continuing with Yemen, let's consider the Sustainable Development Goal of zero hunger. According to the UN, there are 6.8 million people in Yemen on the brink of starvation. These people aren't worried about sustainable development goals a decade from now, of course. They're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, where their family's next meal is going to come from, their friends, and so forth. Consider the Sustainable Development Goal of clean water and sanitation. Due in part to the lack of both of these, it's estimated that about 300,000 people in Yemen have now been infected with cholera, with more than 1,700 deaths. The scale of this crisis demands action, not fatalism, and it sounds as though you have an action orientation, so that's fantastic. You spoke to the lack of participation of partners vis-a-vis this crisis. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the Yemen 2017 Humanitarian Response Plan is only 33% funded. We still need $1.4 billion. Now, there are a number of countries, a number of partners that have nominally participated. They've committed to give more funds to Yemen to help address this crisis. They've committed to take action with great fanfare, and yet the money is still slow in arriving. If confirmed, Ms. Currie, will you look at this situation in Yemen and consider what countries that you can press to fulfill their financial and moral obligations in Yemen?
Absolutely, Senator Young. If confirmed, this will, as I said, be one of the top priorities for the ECOSOC office. It already is a major priority of the ECOSOC team in New York. The unwillingness or inability of various actors to either constrain their own forces that are harassing and making it impossible to deliver humanitarian assistance is one of the key factors. So again, working with my colleague in Special Political Affairs, we have to tackle all of this. As you know, this is a man-made famine. This is a famine that results from a conflict and not a natural disaster or weather event. And therefore, most of the routes to resolving this famine rely in the political sector and dealing with the political crisis in Yemen.
So I don't want to linger on Yemen because I want to have enough time to pivot to OPIC briefly, but there's another concrete action you can take. It's something I've been working on, and it pertains to U.S.-funded cranes. These are cranes that are needed in the major port of Hodeidah in Yemen to offload food and medical supplies and help mitigate help staunch this ever-growing humanitarian disaster. And there are things, as I see it, that can be done. If confirmed, will you look at this situation regarding the cranes, working with our office and others, and consider pressing the Saudi government at the UN to permit delivery of these cranes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I pledge to do that if confirmed.
Thank you.